This is To the Bar. Strength in every story. And now for today's show.
Right. Welcome to the bar. So, episode 203. I'm Jess Roebuck-Slaney.
I'm Aaron Holt.
And today's guest we have Claire Deacon from
Hello.
British Weightlifting. And so, just remind me, your title is Events Lead, Competitions Lead?
Events Lead.
Lead. Events Lead for BWL, which is a pretty impressive role. I mean, when we think about all the different events that BWL do, actually, that's got to be a massive role.
Yeah, that's why it used to, obviously Ed had the title of competitions manager a few years ago. So when I came on board, we changed it to events because that was the thing. It's like we started to branch out at that point. So they felt that encompassed everything we do rather than just run competitions.
Because, I mean, obviously British weightlifting isn't just British weightlifting, it's British weightlifting and Paralympic.
Yeah,
exactly.
Powerlifting.
Yeah.
PPP.
PPP.
Alliteration, which we struggle with. And then all your, additional events. So when we think about the Gymshark events or your Innovating, all that sort of stuff as well. So it's a massive role.
Yeah. It's exciting. It's a lot, but it's good. I love it.
Keeps you busy, that's for sure.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think one of the reasons we're here today to talk about is cue points.
Yes.
So I'm going to just throw it out there and go like, what the hell is it? So give us a bit of an overview of what it is and how we've come to using cue points for the Masters, let's put it that.
Yeah, so I think it all stems back to England Championships 23, where we had the first time 3 platforms and we had Masters with us there. And I think if you remember, it wasn't as busy as we expect it to be. Fast forward to the British the next year. There's so many entries. I think we had 180 odd, and the female entries filled up in 10 minutes. Yeah. So we were like, right,
and it was just the floodgates open, tickets open, sort of thing, and it just went straight away, didn't it?
We were in a meeting, and then we were having phone calls and messages going, "It's full, I can't get in." So we were like, right, something needs to change. We saw this pattern of just an increase in Masters lifters, which is amazing. Yeah. And obviously Matt went out with the webinar and just asked the community what they wanted to do. I wasn't able to make that, so I'm going to have to generalise on the points that Maggie told me.
Yeah, we were there.
Yeah, so you'll probably know more than me in that aspect. But he obviously referenced cue points and looked at a way in which to make the Masters more competitive. Because we've always had it first come, first serve, which obviously, like I said, wasn't working anymore because we were just filling up those spaces far too fast. And we're just at capacity, essentially, at the moment. When it comes to the British Championships, which we're talking about most of the cue points currently, we've got the para-powerlifters with us, the seniors and the masters. And we can only do so much over those few days. So we had to find a way to limit so many athletes coming on board. So I think cue points is relatively new. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's it's a Sinclair with an age formula on the Masters capacity. So we kind of thought that'd be a good way in which to try and find a way for invites to exist for Masters, because we've always had questions and we've had to point out that we can't invite the top lifters in every category because that's 200 people, because you've got 10 age groups and 10 weight categories as it was then. Yep. Obviously we're changing now, but it was just like, that's far too many athletes. And if we did that, everyone
is still 180. Even when we change weight categories, it's still 180 people.
Yeah,
it's insane. Yeah.
And everyone would get a gold medal, and that's not a competition really. No. That's just a come and lift. Well done, you're here, kind of thing. So, cue points was what was put forward. Obviously, it's been interesting to try and turn that around. We are working still with Sport 8 to see if it's on there. But obviously, as most people know, we've gone to the Excel sheet at the moment to kind of show those cue points. But to make it competitive was basically the way behind it. And just so we could, like I say, give everyone a fair chance at getting on the platform at the British Championships, the biggest competition we have.
Yeah. I think before we go into some of the questions we had around the cue points, I just want to pick up on something you said there about the Masters. So the first time the Masters were alongside the seniors was the English 2023, and we didn't see as many. And then obviously for the British, we saw this huge boom, which to me then speaks volumes to the move towards having working alongside the CrossFit events, essentially, because the English 2023 was with Strength in FitFest.
FitFest,
right?
the first year, yeah.
So that was FitFest. So that's pretty awesome, really. That's almost, to me, I would take that as like a community endorsement for the fact that worked.
Yeah.
Which is something we often ask guests, what do you think to this change of including British weightlifting in Strength in Depth or Fit Fest at the NEC and mixing the two worlds, CrossFit and weightlifting. So it's really nice to hear that actually there was this massive boom after that initial Fit Fest combination. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah.
I suppose that was kind of the guinea pig event for us as well, because that was the first time we'd done a big event there with them, with CrossFit, as you know, taking it away from the venues where we were by ourselves and we didn't have all that external noise and everything going on. So that was a really kind of stressful but fun competition to find out how everything was going to be perceived. And, you know, here we are now, 18 months later. Well, we're moving on to our fourth. British will be the fourth. Alongside NFG and SID.
Yeah.
So.
Nice.
Yep.
So what's the general vibe? I mean, for most people that listen to the podcast, there might be a couple of sort of juniors or seniors that won't know, but there is a Masters WhatsApp chat.
Yes.
And so obviously there's often a lot of discussion in there when there's changes. So we've seen some of the feedback. A lot of it's been largely positive. There are a couple of questions, but more wider than that, what do you think the general response from the Masters has been towards a change to key points?
I agree, positive.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, it's always, whenever a change comes about, there's always going to be mixed opinions, and, you know, that's absolutely fine. Everyone has their own opinion, but we have to do what's best for the lifters, and this was the way we proceeded to go. So, yeah, it was nice to see a lot of the positive comments and, you know, people embracing the change.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when we first saw the changes, we had a sit down and we sort of discussed it, and I was a bit on the fence. It wasn't that I needed convincing. It was more a case of I think I just needed to talk it through and to realise a couple of things.
Yeah.
I think for me it was always that thing of, you know, weightlifting is predominantly who lifts the heaviest in your age or weight category is the winner. Then all of a sudden, you know, I could lose out to someone that was much older lifting a lot less. But then you were sort of very much, well, yeah, but isn't that more impressive? You know, it makes it more competitive and more impressive that someone at that age, you know, when you sort of dial it down to the key points, it's such
It's just making it equitable, and I think it's really difficult, isn't it? For British weightlifting, you've got such a breadth of members. To try and make things equitable must be so challenging, and the only place we can really do that, I mean, we obviously in tier 3 everybody embraces it. We all embrace the Sinclair, or we embrace the Sinclair. When we ran our comp at Ascus, we used the Sinclair with the MHF adjustment to account for age, which is not as accurate as Q points. So Q points is obviously then an increased accuracy on what we currently already use. So it was almost like, for me, people just shifting ever so slightly from thinking, well, it's okay at tier 3 to actually this is how we're going to do it as a national governing body. But yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah,
makes it more competitive.
I don't think people realise as well with the Masters, because obviously it's 35 and over. That covers a large demographic of the membership as well. So I looked into it when we first started exploring this, and I was like, that's 1,000 members pretty much. It was over 1,000. And the Q point sheet is 900 athletes that we have on there.
Yeah.
So 900 masters that have all competed at tier 3 within, and we've done the qualification period. So yeah,
which is a lot.
It is a lot of people. Yeah.
Which again, I think is an amazing thing to point out, that 90% of your members of masters members are attending competition, because I'm a masters member and I haven't competed within that time frame. I could have done, but I haven't, because I'm just not inclined to, I suppose. It wouldn't bother me if I did, it wouldn't bother me if I didn't. I just that's, you know, I pay my membership, I'm part of BWL, but competing isn't necessarily something I'm doing at the minute. But the fact that 90% of masters do is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you want it to be competitive? If I heard like actually 90% of my peers are getting on a platform, it makes me a bit itchy to think, well, why am I not?
Yeah, and it's one of those things, it's like we can only ever allow, like I say, a certain number of people in, and there had to be a way in which to restrict it. So I appreciate there's a very, very small percentage we're allowing at the British, hence why the Masters Opens have come alongside this as well, to give more standalone masters competitions for those people that aren't going to get to the British, but just, you know, want to lift, just want to go to tier 3 and just lift on a platform and have a bit of fun with weightlifting. So that's why they came along as well. Yeah.
I mean, I think again, it's nice to see the spread in terms of, you know, when we first started the podcast, a lot of the feedback we were getting was it's sort of tier 3 or the British, and there's not really much in between. So obviously adding in all these extra elements is why you need an events lead, but also B, why you need to make
stressed events lead.
B, why you need to make the British more competitive, because so you should. I mean, this is the best of the best. If we're saying you are worthy of being on a British Championships platform, a national champion, then you should be, in my eyes, competitive enough to be there. So the Opens are great.
That was the nail in the coffin for me. That I think we'd been at Bangor, hadn't we, for the British Masters, the other British Masters, and the fact that we were seeing people in one person in their category just walking away with the gold, which is fine. I mean, not to take it away from them, they've done all the work and turned up to the event, but it must be. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you're not really competing against anyone. You haven't won a medal. You've achieved a medal by turning up.
And that's where a lot of the positive feedback's come from, hasn't it? It's come from people going, "Ooh, now I want to be in that." I mean, the first thing that when I started replying in the WhatsApp chat, the first thing that made me smile was the guy who replied and said, "I'm going to be refreshing that league table every week now." So I thought, that's what it should be like. It should be, where am I on that table? Yeah. How much do I need to put on to get into that top 7? Yep. That is a competitive Masters mindset. That's a shift to, I am a competitive athlete, rather than I weightlift and occasionally I do it in front of an audience and come away with a medal.
Yeah, and I'm just going to wait for that date of that competition to open and then jump in. Yeah, and that's why we had to get the Q points sheet out so fast, so people had all this chance to to get up there, it and they can see. And it was great because it was a very fast turnaround for the team. Even our lovely Matthew Curtin, CEO, he was copying and pasting people into it because myself and Mangi and Ed, we're kind of right in the middle. We've done 3 competitions in 6.5 weeks essentially. So and then we're having to do all the weight changes and things as well. So it was just like, right, we're going to pull together as a team. So Matt was helping out, we had Tara as well helping out, and everyone was just like, right, we'll get this spreadsheet done. And it is there. So we are updating it. Just bear with us if it's your results aren't on straight away. We'll try and get them every month is what we're doing.
And it's worth everyone remembering that it's a manual process to pull all that data across and stick it on that spreadsheet until we can get Sport AT sorted out.
Hopefully, but at least we know the sheet's working. I was so scared when I pressed go live and put it on the website, and I was never been so nervous for posting on our website before. But I'm glad to see it's okay.
It looks great.
And the video on the how-to as well. I clicked on that yesterday. I was
thanks.
Is that you?
We were just like, we'll do a little video on how to use it and lock it so people can't change things as well.
But the other thing I want to point out just there though is the five sort of people that you listed as helping out, and probably weren't the only 5, but is like a third of British weightlifting. Like you're a tiny national governing body, and I think sometimes we would all do well to remember how small a team of paid people you are. So when you say we've done 6 comps, where we are because there's going to be a comp, we're moving, you're already planning for the British, there's so much going on. So all these things for a very small team.
3 people in events.
It's insane. Yeah.
So I was going to go on to talk about sort of comps anyway, because I thought that was quite a nice segue. But before we did, I wanted just to sort of re-emphasise the fact that the whole Q points are making it competitive, and this will bore everyone apart from me because I found it really interesting last night whilst I was just doing some sums. So we've got 2 lifters, and bearing in mind I'm in the M50s now, and bodyweight category, so let's just say that we'll be in the 88. So let's say me and a 35-year-old weigh in at 89 kilos. We both total 200 kilos overall. I would get 311.2, and he would get 262.5. So I'll walk away as the winner. Interestingly enough, that he would then have to get a total of 238 to get the Q points total to win. So it's amazing. But then, because I put in the 89 bodyweight category, he could also weigh in at 88 kilos and get a total of 236 into 238. So it's really interesting. I find it amazing that not only, and we've seen a shift now, I've had people sort of contacting me about, wait a minute, I don't have to cut to get into my weight class. I can actually be at the lower end of my weight class. So everyone is now, rather than sort of limiting their sort of intake, sort of getting going into the weigh-in. It's like, well, maybe I could just sneak into the next one up
and be at the bottom.
So everyone's going to be at the bottom of the weight category. So
it's going to be interesting because obviously when it comes to British, we don't know ultimately how it's going to work and flow.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time we've done it, and kind of referencing how we decided to categorise everything as well. Because once we went Q points, we're like, brilliant. But then how did we put everyone into groups? Do we just go with the age group still? So I did, initially we had like a draft of what the sheet is now, and I put in a few weights and age ranges, and like you pointed out, it's just because they're the younger athlete doesn't necessarily mean their Q points are higher because you've got the age factor in. So I was like, that makes such a difference. So if we take the age element out because you've got the multiplication of that number, then it just
weight category.
Yeah. And I think if anyone looks at not like people's weight categories, but just actually the rankings of male lifters or female lifters, it is so variable because we've got some really strong older lifters. It's, I know there are categories, and certainly because we've gone from 10 to 8, that there are quite a few 35 to 39 lifters, just because they maybe are slightly more competitive. But I think across the board, I think there's quite a good variety to it.
And I think it's probably worth remembering that unfortunately there is this little bit of a split between the British Masters, as in the British Masters that aligns with the International Masters, World Masters, and British Weightlifting. And certainly when we go to the British Masters competition that's just gone on in February at Bangor, there's not many of the older athletes, so I'm not talking about the 50s and below, I'm talking about the sort of 70s. There was one guy, the oldest guy there was born in 1936. I don't think he's registered with British Weightlifting, So it's actually, some people are still lifting, and they're still lifting with the the Masters, British Masters, but aren't necessarily lifting in our local Tier 3 comp. So there could be that skew element that might actually tempt in some people in terms of memberships, because I can well believe that there's going to be an 80-year-old out there that would crack a first place because we've seen them lifting elsewhere. It's just whether or not they register. So
like I say, we'll see at the British how it all goes, and obviously if things don't work out, hopefully it will, because we're giving a lot of thought into it, but it is like a trial and error still. We're still trying to find the best way to make it inclusive for masters lifters. And I mean, it was quite funny having all the meetings because all of us in there were masters. I'm a master as well. So it's just like we're talking about the lifters in our group, so it's
Yeah, very interesting. Can't wait to see it, really. And I think, sort of touching back on the competitions we were talking about earlier, that I think one of the questions I had really was about the sort of the financial aspect of it, and do BWL make a profit from them, or is it really run at a loss? I mean, I
think
it's ask how much, but
it's Maggie's job to look after all the budgets and stuff, so I never know the ins and outs. I'm on the ground kind of I'm like, what about this idea, what about this? So it's I don't know the exact answer to that, but I think generally events just don't make money. I mean there may be variations to that, but
but the idea is it's not an income generator, the competitions.
No, I may be wrong, and I may
Well, I think So I think when we looked back at one of our first major comps together, when we were started off with To the Bar, was the British at Manchester.
Yeah,
it was a spectacular event. Media on point. The venue was amazing. Yeah. Huge screen in front of but
it was incredible when you walked in at Manchester, wasn't
really
it?
Impressive.
It was really incredible.
It's just that really long walk down there when I had to keep going back to the front desk, and I was like running up and down.
But when you turned that corner and you saw the main platform, I mean, I remember I got the same sort of feeling as when we walked into the Olympics at Paris. That wow, this is incredible.
An auditorium for weightlifting. But then, we turn around and look at the crowd, and there weren't, compared to what we see now, it wasn't, it was quite clear that wasn't going to be, they're generating a shed load of money from this.
Yeah.
And so when we think about the Masters and, some of the comments about that, let's have our own individual competition, I think it's probably a good reason as to why you're not, because one, your calendar's packed full of competitions as well, but I guess throwing another one in, the costs that it would.
Yeah, there's always other things, and I was saying we're a team of 3, and Ed now works part-time, so it's like there's only me and Maggie full-time. It's like I said, calendar's packed because we've taken on 3 extra Masters comps this year. We've got the regionals, we've got the adaptive, we've got, as well as our regular roster. So it's then adding in another comp it doesn't sound much. It's like, oh yeah, one more, but it's one more that it takes a whole process, you know, and we'll talk about the process and how much it takes to put a comp on. It's just it's a lot. But yeah, financially as well, it's, you know, sport in the UK isn't massively financially led. Like, you know, we have certain funding and things, but at the end of the day, we put our comps on for the lifters.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as Ed puts it very well, it's like we're the face of the sport. That's
Yep.
what you come to see, is someone lift on a platform.
Yeah.
You know, there's everything that goes with it, and you know, we cover so many areas. All my colleagues do an amazing job in education, and you know, all the things we're doing with the Club Cup and all the work Hannah's done over the years. There's loads of stuff to it, but you know, people look to the Olympics, people look to Commonwealth Games, they look to see people on the platform. So
Yeah. But I think it's just, we ask questions like that because for us personally, as we've gotten closer relationships with you guys, as we've done things like the podcast, or we've sort of snuck up to Matt to asking questions and things, the more you learn about it, the more you really start to, not that we didn't respect you before, but you start to really respect actually what British weightlifting is. And I think it's really easy as an athlete to turn up to your local gym and train and then expect more and more and more without ever really having to think about whether or not British weightlifting gets funding or whether or not a competition makes money. Or it's easy to assume that British weightlifting is just rolling in all this extra cash, and you could quite easily put on an open here or an open there, or you know, why can't we use this venue and why can't we use that venue, without thinking about things like, well, then just take the venues for example, UCAD, can we drop a bar there, all the different things that must have to go into planning a competition. I don't think I thought about any of that until we started the podcast. And some of it I still didn't think about until we did our own competition. I still wouldn't have thought about. So it's an interesting one to ask, even if it's just a general answer, which I know we've asked Matt before about the finances, and he sort of said, you know, competitions is not where we're making money. It's just something for people, I imagine. It's quite an interesting one. You know?
Yeah. I think because they see us take spectator fees and things like that, and you know, but it is like, say, it's all the stuff that goes into it. We have to cover the transportation, the hire of the venue, and it's things like
the
that.
Media
and,
people,
and it's just like the cost of everything goes up each year as well, as we all know. Just generally around the UK, it's the cost of living is just going up and up and up. So it's like, you know, that's why sometimes our prices might increase a bit. It's just because it's...
Well, last year when they went up, I was blaming the people that were robbing the incremental plates because then you had to buy the padlocks. So there was
padlocks work there, don't they? Everyone loves them now. We can't think of a time without them.
Exactly. But there was part of me that back then on the podcast wanted to be like, well, if you stopped stealing the plates, you wouldn't have to pay for padlocks. But I didn't. Do it now.
This is
now everybody's calmed down.
Those plates aren't cheap, which is why obviously they went missing. But it's like we don't have surplus of them, so it's like, it's again cost.
Got some sort of printing press in the background, the leak of plates, just pumping them out every time.
But that probably does. I mean, unless you've got any other questions that we've missed, it leads quite nicely into your role as the events lead and what it actually takes to put a competition on. Because that's another thing. I think it's really easy for us to turn up. I mean, we've done it on a Friday at the NEC. We've turned up and everything's done, and it's easy to walk in and just think, elves have come in overnight, and that's there like that. But Ed once showed Aaron and I a picture of the space, and then on his phone, and then a picture of a big old truck in the space, obviously bringing in all the kit and stuff. And it was then that we sort of looked at each other and went, oh shit, someone had to build this. And you just don't think about it because you turn up to do your bit of the jobs, which for us is, you know, TOing and sometimes occasionally the media element, but largely TOing. So I don't think about how did that screen get there and how is this, or how is my Marshall station set up. I just turn up and expect it to be set up. So
I think it's probably the NEC, wasn't it, where the wagon pulls in. That's why I love the NEC, because it's the wagon goes straight in and it's wonderful. We can offload it because like here at Brunel for this weekend, it's this week actually, we have to, everything has to come from the top end of the track and down the length because the truck can't come down here and turn around. So it's things like that we have to think about as well. And like the flooring, so we'll have to lay boards to bring in every single pallet of items. Do you want to go over that again?
I was just covering it because I thought maybe I could shield from
the rowdy bunch outside.
Don't worry about it, guys. It's just in a university, you're going to get some rowdy. They've just got over the hangovers.
Just woken up, yeah. Rolling off to McDonald's.
Let's just get that little bit louder every second, and I was like,
I don't really know where we could go back to. We just leave it in. Just
Yeah.
let people know what it's like. We're in Brunel.
Yeah.
So it's a lot. It's a lot when you think about it in terms of just putting a competition together.
Yeah, so I mean, as you said, when Ed showed us that picture, I mean, the NEC is literally just a massive warehouse, blank space, isn't it? And how do you plan for that? Because not only have you got, how you configure the warm-up area or the platforms, the seating, but then you've got, is it you're given a small area or an area to work with?
Yeah,
and you
so
plan it out?
Everything starts probably about 7 or 6 months before I actually arrive. So we were even sometimes talking in December, especially in terms of the qualification process, because all of that has to go through a lot of variations, a lot of backs and forwards. And certainly this year with the weight class changes, there's been a lot more that's had to go into it to think about where everyone sits and how many we bring in, because we couldn't just look at what we did last year and amend. So obviously working now with NFG and Strength in Depth. Like I say, it's the 4th version we've done with them now, so we kind of work really well with them and we know what to expect. So it is obviously naturally their competition that we're a part of. So this year will be the same as last year, which is their SID Championships, and then we'll obviously have our British Champs. So yeah, they kind of give us the floor space, because obviously they need to sort out their vendors and things like that, and they have like 3 arenas and things. So yeah, we're given a floor space, but there are so many tiny things to think about. I was saying to you when we were having a chat the other day, it's like that's our floor space, but then we have to think about, right, where are our platforms going to go? And we have things like a pillar in the way, and then there's like a door, so we have to leave so much space in front of that door, and we obviously can't put a warm-up platform right where the pillar is, because that's not ideal. And then I'm sure everyone will be aware of Alan March that do all the production with us. They've been with us for a number of years, so we're now looking at the projectors and the screens we've had previously. We need to think about where that is in relation to the platform, where the projector sits, where the screen sits. So I've had to make sure there's space for that. And that's just the floor plan alone. Yeah. All those things we have to think about. And there will always be so many variations of a document, even like that will go backs and forwards between everyone. And that's just one element to it.
I was going to say, to add on to that, for anybody who doesn't necessarily cross the line of athlete into any other role, you have then also got to organise TO break room, UCAD room, bathroom that's only for UCAD,
weigh-in rooms.
Yeah. So there's all these additional elements that add on to space, which I think, again, is not something, until Maggie had said to me, we can only ever use venues that have a bathroom within a certain amount of feet, I can't remember what she said, but there has to be a bathroom that can be used solely for UCAD in case they turn up. And even if they don't turn up, it has to have a sign on the door that said, UCAD only. I never thought about that, but why would I have done? So all of a sudden then immediately certain venues are out, because if they only had one bathroom, you couldn't guarantee it could only be used for UCAD. So it was an interesting thought process, but the idea that you're planning 6-7 months in advance whilst also running other competitions alongside that, it's a lot for 2.5 people.
Because that'll be the thing. We'll start talking about the British, and then, as you know, the England age groups is very much at the start of the year. So obviously that has to even start happening before the Christmas break. We need to make sure everything's in place when we come back, because quite often we've come straight back into the year and things have been open, entries on Sport 18, things like that. But like you're saying, with the number of venues we can go to, flooring is a big thing as well. I think not a lot of people think about how big an impact the flooring can make. And actually, if we need to bring boards, so if it's like a really padded flooring, and Ed will probably correct me if I'm wrong, because he's our logistics lead and the go-to man, it's like that flooring needs to take obviously sometimes 200 odd kilos. So we need to think about the heaviest weights being lifted. If that floor isn't going to take that weight and there's a risk of damage in it, we can't go to that venue.
So our first comp Atticus, we realised that ourselves, because where we had our platform was on the CrossFit side of the gym, and if we dropped the Eleiko plates on that side, we would have avoided their warranty, whether they got damaged or not, because they had been used on flooring that wasn't over 7mm thick, I think it needs to be, or somebody will correct me because I'm sure that's wrong. But there's 7.5. But again, with the Gymshark one, you think you have to have the drop pads, because it's not flooring that's made for. So it's a lot, but One of the other things that I always think is incredible about your role specifically is when I think about my favourite position, so Marshall's table, and I think about owls and the IT and 3 platforms and running all of that, and the fact that, there's technical glitches I will point out at everybody's competition. I would love for somebody to contact me.
Happened at the Olympics, so I would like to point that out.
Exactly. It happened whilst we were at the Olympics. But I would love for anybody from a tier 3 comp to contact me and say that they had a perfect, technical free comp. None of us do.
Yeah.
But when there is a technical issue, it's you.
Yeah.
Only you.
Yeah.
And I sort of wanted to bring that up so that people could maybe keep that in as a reality, because they don't know. So, if people don't know and there's a crowd of 2,000 people thinking, why is this taking so long? It's maybe helpful to know that all of that
3 platforms,
right?
one person running around, everyone's just saying, can I just...
1 second.
Suggesting, have you tried turning off and turning it back on again?
It's interesting. I think a lot of people will know me from sheer just running between platforms. Certainly when we did the English at 23, and there were the other end, I did so much running across that Roebuck room and like leaping over plates. But it's one of the, I've just always been a tech person. I'm a nerd. I'm a big gamer, and our house is just decked out of lots of gadgets, robot vacuum cleaners, the lot. So it actually started, it was BUCS 2 years ago when I first started to look at the OWL system, and Christian introduced it to British Weightlifting. It went from there, and then here we are now, like I said, with all the advancements. But we try to teach the staff, but because competition setups are so tight, and we'll be here tomorrow from 9 a.m. till hopefully 6, but sometimes we've been here 8 or 9 p.m. in the evening, so 12-hour days. Sometimes it can take to set up a comp. We just don't have the time to teach the staff. And then because our day jobs are so busy, I don't have time to always sit down and go over things with them. So,
and I'll give him a shout out, although you know his name better than me. Is Jean-Francois Lemon, who actually created the software. It's free and it is constantly updating. So actually you could train the staff, or every time we sit down to use it, something is slightly different. So there is, there's a lot in terms of training. You could probably do training every week, but it is pretty epic, because I remember when we were using the IWS, you did an England age groups, and we used the IWF's system. And what is that guy's name? Begins with a Z. We saw him at the Olympics.
Zoltan.
Zoltan. Oh yeah, that guy's great. But he was like some kind of wizard, because that's his whole job is with the IWF to go around and run the IWF software for competitions at every country, everywhere it is. But that is his entire life, is that software. And I actually still prefer owls. Sorry, Zoltan. I do still prefer owls. It's so much better. But it is free and constantly evolving, so obviously there's then always change, isn't there? Yeah,
so I have to test it, obviously I have to upload everyone onto a system, and now when we've got 184 lifters, we're averaging kind of 300 at the British. That takes me like 2 or 3 hours to upload everyone onto the system, and then I test it, and like you were saying, that Zoltan's job is just the system.
Yep. His whole job.
That's a very small part of my job as the system. And then obviously, as you pointed out as well, on the Marshall's table, we have the live feed now.
Which I love. Please don't ever take that away.
I have learned very quickly how much people love that, and how much they rely on it. The second that camera gets shifted, I've had little children accidentally knock the camera before, and everyone's like, I can't see.
I actually did come out and move it back in one of the 5-minute breaks. Because I was like, I turned around to watch it, and somebody had knocked it, and I was like, no, that won't do.
Facing the floor.
So as soon as there was a 5-minute break, I think I said to you, just hold my station for a second. So
that's what you were doing.
Yeah, good, thank you.
Protect it.
It's one less thing for me to do.
It makes a massive difference.
Yeah.
Well, it also makes a difference, I think, for the coaches tactfully, because if you can see, what I see happening is I see coaches watching their athletes, competitor, lift on that platform from that camera, and I watch them think, they're not going to make their next one. I'm going up or I'm not going up. So it's sort of it's multifaceted. For me, it's entertaining because then I don't get to miss out on seeing the lifts on the platform. I just have to, I think I said it on the Julie episode, I just have to wind myself back in sometimes when I say, oh, that's a no lift, and then 3 white lights come through, and I'm like,
yes, we all do it.
But we all do it, So it's the whole point, isn't it, is that you have 3 refs for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm seeing it from a very different angle than a ref would see. I think we listed down some of the things that we thought came under your role. Just to point out, I mean, these are the things that I wrote down. So
I'll just go yes or no.
So, like, obviously part of setup of the competition and takedown. So, like you were saying, setting it up, platforms, getting the plates out, warm-up areas, maps, all of that stuff. The competition calendar across the year, including adding in any of these extra events that pop up as they do. Or Matt, as much as I love him, his lovely, crazy ideas.
I've got a great idea.
Yeah.
Let's run five events consecutively.
Slotting things into the calendar randomly. Venue coordination, so if you were going to do something new, so like the Gymshark, coordinating with the new venues.
Site visits as well, to throw that in there as well. Me and Ed have done site visits as well.
So to check out a venue.
For next year.
So the IT owls, making sure that's all running, which now is then also going to include this lovely league table for the Masters with the Q points.
Which I've still got to test, so there's all the testing that goes with it, so I've got all that.
We've got volunteers and rota, because obviously TOs, the whole point of To The Bar when we originally set it up was to try and get in some more TOs. And I think we did do we did see quite a lot of people go, or we see a lot of new faces. So I'm hoping that we are trying to make being a technical official a little bit more appealing. Yeah. But ultimately, you do still have massive gaps in the rota, and you are always having to try and either entice in new volunteers or organise the TOs, make sure TOs have got water, make sure the TOs have got a rest break, do a TO rota.
Yeah. And on that note, we're, like you say, there are still gaps that we have, and we're aware that, there's lots of TOs out there, but it's not for everyone going to volunteer at a big competition and things like that. But we are trying to work on a proper pathway. I've been saying it for ages. I've had conversations with many people, but it's just one of those that unfortunately we don't have capacity to look at yet. But it's on there. We're trying to improve volunteer engagement, experience, and all of that, just so people know. We're not just going, we don't get TOs. We are actively trying, but because of the calendar and everything else that you're listing, it's...
And I think realistically, if you are going to be a TO, or if you're interested at all in being a TO, it's because you love weightlifting and you want the best for the person on the platform. So for me, a lot of that, if you gave me the choice and something had to drop, it wouldn't be something that was going to affect the lifter on the platform. Yeah. So as much as the development pathway for TOs is really important, actually if it came at sacrificing something that was really important for the English or the British, or it's hard to balance, is what I'm saying basically. It's a difficult one, so I can understand why when you're looking at time that pathway maybe doesn't get priority, but there's still entry level elements to TOing that people can get involved in, and before you go on, I think it's one of my bugbears. It winds me up immensely that we have a competition. I don't know how many people are going to be at the British or at BUCS, but the competition only runs because of you, but also because of the volunteers that are surround that. And if no TOs turn up, you're not going to get a competition, or it will just be a very ungovernable competition and everyone's going to be pressing out.
Yeah, and we now have it as well that a lot of the staff are TOs. Because we used to always turn up as people know 2-3 years ago. It's always been British weightlifting staff that run the front desk and things like that as well. And that's something to point out. It's not just the events team that are here. We're talking. We've got Ash coming down tomorrow from education. Kath will be here as well. She'll be on the front desk. We've got Lisa coming down. We've got everyone comes to help. Yeah. But now we're TOs because we've had to jump in gaps because we do have those occasions where we're just short.
Yeah. But there's plenty of clubs that do have TOs, and that will be here. There's plenty of coaches that are also TOs, and without shaming people, could jump in and
even if it's just one, we get it's a cost to say come somewhere for the weekend and pay for a hotel. But even if you could just do a day, if it's nearby to you and you can make it there and back in a day. Great.
Yeah. Or if you're here anyway and you finished with your lifter and you finished, or you've lifted, what I love, and I'm going to use Stefano as an example, or Max Rivaldi as well. I've seen do it. Literally come off of the platform and while still in their singlets, sit down and load. That I love.
Ramiro's loaded before as well. I think it was BUCS last year. He jumped in.
I just love it. I love it when they're like, do you know what? I've done my bit. I'm gonna help out. And I think if an athlete can do that, and they're young athletes as well. The three that we've just named there are younger athletes. Yeah. If they can think, somebody's done that for me, so I'm going to do it for them, then maybe some more of us can think, right, I'm here, I've done my coaching now, what can I do to help? Or here, I'm here, I've lifted, what can I do tomorrow? Because I'm already here, So it's worth pointing out that you don't have to be one and or the other. You can be all these things, because I think, you are going to coach during BUCS, you've coached whilst also being a TO at the British. We all sit in multiple roles. So
You said that a lot more eloquently than I would have done.
That's because I'm usually the one that's like, everybody's a dick. So I try to balance myself, and today is me balancing.
Well done.
So then I've also got on here entrance, so obviously managing queries from people who enter the competition, which I imagine is quite a lot. But you were talking about people, not I want to say complaining, but pointing out, say, quickest on the button. Yeah. So when people get in touch about that, you've sold out already. That's you guys that are there, that are the face of that. We've got TCRR updates, because thinking about this Q points change and the weight category changes, that sits with you and Maggie to write that change to the term that TCRR. I should know what TCRR stands for.
Technical rules.
Thank you. Technical rules and regulations.
Someone's failing their IWF exam.
Terms, conditions, rules. I don't know. I know I follow them, but I'd forgotten the acronym. Yeah, so that's you. And they're the main things that I've got down.
Yeah.
I say that's it. But obviously, that's a lot.
There's still more to it as well, because like you said, when Sport 80, we still have to help all the tier 3s. So I know Sport 80 because I've got that technical, like tech mind.
The geek.
So the geek. I'm enabled as BDRL's IT person as well.
Yes. Another hat.
But it's like, so we assist all the, tier 3s if people haven't put comps on before, and general incoming queries and emails and things.
I mean, you did it for us at Asker. So I mean, we accidentally, and I definitely wouldn't have done it if I'd known, put our comp on the very last day to qualify for the English, which meant that our results had to go on Sport 80 before midnight in order for people had made qualification totals. So you obviously sat down and showed me how to, because I'd never done it before, how to upload those results on Sport 80.
And again, it's stuff we want to do. We want to change the website. We've got access to do a few things this year, but again, it's time. We just don't have the capacity yet. We have all these on our list to do at some point this year, but so it's like all the incoming phone calls. I mean, a lot of that is also Maggie's job. She helps, we work together. She does a lot of the rotas for competitions for the TOs. But there will be, no joke, probably about 5 or 6 variations of each document that will go backs and forwards. Start listing schedules as well, and all of that. As soon as we have the entries close, even checking all the entries. So I don't think people just assume we take that 180, like I say, for this weekend. We just take all of those. No, we go through and we check them to make sure everyone's made qualification. And now we've started to check that, make sure they've actually achieved that qualification total. Not necessarily, we hope the competition they've listed. But
cross-check that is accurate.
Certainly with BUCS, we did have issues because they accidentally put incorrect weight categories on. So we've had a right nightmare backs and forwards. And we've had to email a lot of lifters, so we contact them directly. Same with the coaches. Everyone obviously puts 2 coaches forward on their entry form. I have to manually check every single one of those coaches to make sure they have all the credentials and that everything falls within the dates.
Yeah, and I'm going to point out now on the podcast for any coaches listening that you do have to have safeguarding and a DBS in order to get into a back room if you don't want us kicking you out. Because as a marshal or a technical controller, or I mean, at BUCS it was lovely because not BUCS, but British. I don't know who it was that you paid to sort of stand there and be bodyguard.
Oh yeah, the Oldbury Army, as I'm calling them now, and we had also volunteers as well from elsewhere. But
loved it. Loved it because they were just like, "Where's your wristband?" So we didn't have to bother. But otherwise, you're not getting a wristband if you've not got those things, and they are quite simple, and it's very clear in the TCRRs that you do need those things.
And it's for a reason. It's not just something we've put in place. I think people need to remember we're a national governing body of a sport, and we have so many guidelines that we have to adhere to in terms of safeguarding and insurance, and that's why a lot of these things are in place. I think a lot of people go, "Oh, it's just British weightlifting." It's like, no, we're having to do things because we're asked to do them by UK sport
I find having that argument a lot about the safeguarding training. That's a UK sport requirement, so it's not British weightlifting just going, everybody needs to do a safeguarding course. That's a UK sport requirement. In order for you to get funding from UK sport, you have to be in line with that guidance, and therefore we have to do as we're asked in order to do that. So it's sort of remembering that we're all part of a bigger system, and there's no one person that you can point a finger at and say, oh, I'm not going to do that because they want you to. It's all part of a wider funding stream, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty huge as a role.
And I said that there's more on that as well. Like, so, or the software, and, you know, I have things in mind that I want to bring in for the British. I won't say what they are, just in case I don't get them done. And, you know, it's stuff to enhance what we have every year. Obviously, you remember, like I say, we first brought the OWL system on, and then since then the live stream's improved, and then since then we've had the camera in the back room. It's like every year we're looking to enhance things, and even with all our processes, all that takes time and takes discussion. Like, poor Maggie has to endure like 2 or 3 phone calls from me a day because I have so many questions and running through. And like, we've obviously got all the paras as well, so we have all their competitions. All the records, and obviously the records are changing with the weight categories. We've got things like this, changes on the website that we've done as well. And
I've got to say, I loved that last year though. That the English must have been the English, having the powerlifting at the same time. Being able to that one day being able to. I was absolutely in awe watching the bench press. So we're never around for when the para's on, so being able to actually see the bench pressing from the powerlifters on that day was incredible. There was one guy, and I think I probably creeped him out a little bit because I was just stood like, what is that? That is insane. So having the weightlifting and that together, I thought was amazing. So when you think about always trying to improve, little things like that to me are an improvement as well, in the sense of mixing us together. We are British weightlifting and powerlifting. So
there's still a massive part of
it's a community.
And I love it. I love doing the para events, and the team have done an incredible job. I mean, look at the results they had out of Paris, and it's great for us to see more lifters come through as well. So it's always a joy to do the para events and see the paras lift. Which
probably brings us very nicely onto one of our next topics, which is something we wanted to plug. Well, probably this episode might go out a little bit too late to plug anybody to encourage them to enter, but at least to be aware on social media, is the Adaptive Open that we've got coming.
Can't wait for this.
So I'm going to just say, I'm going to open it and say, can you tell us a bit about the Adaptive Open?
So, and this is probably, before we go on to it, one of the other things, this is entirely new, so all the rules and regulations we had to write for this as well, because, and it's things like that, you know, all the documents that go with all our competitions, but I think people may remember Nigel, who came to lift at the British Open. We had Abby as well. But basically, Nigel reached out to us at British Open August last year and said, can I come lift? Because he lived down the road from Emily's gym when we had that competition down.
Musket,
So we were like, absolutely. Never had a wheelchair lifter come and do any weightlifting. Me and Maggie have never worked because, you know, we're both, Maggie's done a bit of coaching, I'm a weightlifting coach as well. We've never worked with adapted disabled lifters. We're like, but we'll make it work. So I went away, you know, with Maggie, we looked at what we could do and how we could make it still adhere to weightlifting, but make it more, you know, we've extended the time, same as paras, they have 2 minutes to get onto the platform and things like that, and they're allowed extra straps and equipment and things. So we had the basis then, and I don't know what happened, in all honesty, and people ask me and I'm like, we just went from that and then now to the adaptive comp. I think we just had conversations, you know, we asked them on their feedback. Abby and Nigel loved it, they had a great time, and then before I know it, we're doing another one.
Why not?
I think I just turned around to Maggie and said, why don't we do one? It went down well. There is this community out there, you know, let's go to Oldbury because we've done para comps there, the access is great, we know Sam is an amazing guy and he will help us out so much. Like, it's a lovely venue, we've got big open space, it's in the Midlands, and then May 31st, first ever fully adaptive weightlifting competition.
So just go through the competition categories. So we've got upper extremity, lower extremity, neuromuscular, seated, multi-extremity impairments, short stature, and blind athletes as well. And it's, you know, as you say, being able to encompass all these people these amazing athletes and giving them a platform to go out and sort of showcase their talent and amazing strength.
Well, I mean,
it's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It comes back to the conversation about the Masters and making things equitable. And so actually making the sport accessible, which we know it is, but making the ability for people to compete equitable.
Yeah.
So as amazing as it is, I'm going to add a little nod to the fact that it's also then another event that you've got to slot into your calendar and
that
plan
is different.
that is different, but different in an amazing way. So obviously by the time this goes out, it should be just before the adaptive. So what I'm hoping is we can try and drive some people towards, maybe, I don't know if you're going to have a live stream, but certainly we'll do some media. We're going to go down and do some media coverage. Drive some viewers, because I think it's pretty amazing. It's a massive step forward for British weightlifting to sort of open its arms and say, let's figure this out. Because there's a community of lifters and we're not providing for them right now, so let's figure out how we do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a guy that I saw on Instagram who was who's a blind athlete, led onto the platform, I'm not going to advise anyone to go and try this, because you probably end up under the bar, in a very uncomfortable position. But going out and snatching, I can't remember what he snatched, but 50, 60 kilos, blind, the balance and the ability to be able to trust yourself in that motion is incredible. So I can't wait to see it, and I can't wait to
I'm really excited.
Jaw dropping and be in awe of them all.
And it's been wonderful to get to meet so many people in the community. So Nigel has he runs CrossFit events, adapts CrossFit events under WodAptive, and Craig, who's also helped write a lot of the guidance and be a massive input. He has a gym called Holt Movement, and he works with a lot of disabled athletes. So both of them being on board, and they're very kindly invited me to some of their events to publicise what we're doing. It's just been amazing to meet, all these amazing athletes that lift good weights. Not that you think that they wouldn't, but they just have this. They find a way around it, essentially.
Exactly. So there's a guy I was following on Instagram, and I actually saw him in person at the Gymshark event. And I was following him because he was clean and jerking, and he has one leg. And I saw him at the Gymshark, and I was like, oh, he's some kind of Instagram legend to me, because I'm watching him snatch and clean and jerk on one leg and thinking, how?
Is that Tyler?
This is Tyler. This is incredible. And then seeing him in person was just, cherry on top is to think, good for you, and also good for BWL for sort of opening their arms to that. So
hopefully he will come and lift.
I hope so.
Reach out to him.
His story is really interesting, because I think he gets asked, why don't you wear a prosthetic limb? And he's like, well, I've tried all the different types, just not for me. And so he's on crutches with one leg, and then just goes out and just
but then clean and jerks with that.
There's a brilliant video. I encourage anyone to watch it of someone's reaction behind.
I've seen it. I've seen
when
it.
he's doing the clean and jerk. I said that to him. I was like, that video has got so many views. He's like,
it's the way she says, when I thought he was going to deadlift it, is what it says, and then he clean and jerks it, and you're just like, that's exactly what my reaction would have been.
Amazing
in real life.
Just so much again for the community.
And really open, I found, to just asking and answering questions, and because it is an amazing feat to do that. I'm not sure if I would have the get up and go to really put myself through that. And so good for them.
Well, this is the thing as well. It's all these athletes were weightlifting before we announced there was a weightlifting competition. And this was one of the hardest things to do. There was no real guidance out there at all, other than kind of what the CrossFit space has done, because they've got that pathway for disabled athletes there. But in terms of weightlifting, isn't really a lot. Even internationally. And I had conversations at the WodAptive event with an international coach, and she was like, I've got athletes with Down syndrome that weightlift. I'd love to bring them over. I don't think she's made it happen, unfortunately, just because timing didn't work. But, there are these athletes out there. But we just had to bring something together. So again, it's a trial and error. We're going to do it and see how it goes. Everything is very much open and broad, because we didn't want to restrict those athletes we wanted to
it
see
should
who would
be
turn
accessible.
up.
Yeah.
Just like we
Make
did
it-
with the British. We left it very open for them,
Yep.
and we were
Yeah.
like, this is what we're going to advise you to do. You go and lift.
Yeah, make it as accessible as possible, and then narrow it down as you go. Like
Yeah.
at the minute, all we want to do really is create the space and say, actually, you haven't. We as a sport haven't been accessible to you in terms of competition.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've already
Yeah.
been doing it, so we're going to make it as broad as possible to make it accessible, and then go from there. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so 31st of May at Oldbury Academy in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Get there because it's going to be awesome.
And if
Yeah.
you can't
So-
get there, watch the live stream and or social media because
Yeah.
yeah, sounds great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, as we've had the little volume interruptions and we've referenced a couple of times, we are recording here. We're actually in the British Weightlifting office at the IAC at Brunel University.
Yes, hence the...
If you could tell,
Yeah, if you can't tell. The amount of times we've been in here and I've tried to figure out how I could walk out with one of these up my top. But they're a little bit
the
bulky.
Team GB Adidas one, Great Britain. There you go.
That's-
Yeah, well, that's
Paris.
signed on the other side by Sarah Davies. That one,
Is
I
it?
think.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Is it that one? One of the. Yeah, I think
signed
that
Zoe
one
and
is
Sarah.
signed
Yeah.
by Sarah Davies. Yeah.
It's singlets if people are just listening rather
Yeah.
than...
Sorry,
Yeah, I can't see.
So,
There's
yeah.
lots of Team GB, Team England singlets everywhere. It's Christian's office, so it's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also directly behind Claire's head every single pass that
Yeah.
Christian's
Oh, I did
had.
not notice those.
Everywhere he's been, so there's the Birmingham Commonwealth, there's the England's one.
2022 Junior World Champs.
Yeah,
That's what
it's like a little. Sometimes you come in here and it's like a little museum of weightlifting, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I've come in here before, and when Matt's been in here, and he's just like flinging a pin at you, and he's just been abroad somewhere, and he's got something. But yeah, it's a lovely space. But we're here because you guys are all coming down from British Weightlifting for BUCS, which is the British University Championships,
Yes.
which, as I understand it, actually isn't even yours. So I'm not entirely sure why you guys are doing
How
all the work.
did you end up... Yeah.
it's always been, as far as I've been at British Weightlifting, it's always been a competition. But BUCS is it's a national-wide, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, people, but a national-wide thing, and it's a load of other sports, because our friends at powerlifting, they have powerlifting variations as well. So everything goes through them, which is the strange thing for us because we have to wait to get all the information.
So you lose all of your control.
Yeah, a little bit. Like we have to go through
Yeah.
someone else, but it's like, so when we're talking about uploading all the entries and we do all the start lists, I'm so used to having our Sport 82 form and we keep the information we need and it's in the same place, and then we get it's information from someone else and they didn't send us the coaches, and I had to be like, Maggie, can you please ask them to send us the coaches because we need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so essentially they collect all the entries, and like I said earlier, there was an issue with the entry form as well this year, which caused a few hiccups on our side. But yeah, and then we pop the competition on. So we
just pop it on.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
We
we're
just
just
put it
coming down
on.
from the north. And that's the thing as well, because it's, we are down south to a northerner, because British Weightlifting, we used to be based in Leeds.
Yep.
So a lot of the guys that have been here before myself, I've been here about 4 years. It's like we all are northern based,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then we became remote because of COVID. So we have kind of now 50-50 north and south. But yeah, so this is only the second time I've been in this office and the second time I've been in Brunel. So because it's down south. But
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Ed turns up tomorrow with the wagons?
Ed is turning up today.
Today? with the
Today,
wagons,
yeah, because
or-
it's a good 3.5 hour drive for us. So
Right.
yeah, we'll pop down here to meet the wagon at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
like I say, it will take us, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be done at 6, because now we bring in a rigging crew that will come and help us.
Nice.
We used to always have staff, and I'm sure some of my colleagues will remember the days where it was all us and we had no rigging crew, and then we kind of went to a hybrid 50-50, and then now we've started to bring on more rigging crew,
Yeah.
just because they come in lovely and fresh, lay everything down, do the heavy lifting.
I definitely remember the days when it was just the staff, because you would turn up and you knew it was just the staff. No offence,
You'd
guys.
see us at the end.
But you
No.
knew it was just the staff.
I have some fond memories. I remember when we had, I believe it was the British, it actually could have been the English at Derby, and we had this amazing team of people come and help us stay, which involved Emily Campbell, and then I think it was one of Matt's early competitions, I believe, and we had loads of Domino's pizzas, and there was just this lovely army of British
Nice.
weightlifting and all these lifters as well. So
That
there's
really
fond
helpful.
memories, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think people have to appreciate, our competition days are 12-14 hours. we're here pretty much from 6:30 before the 7 o'clock weigh-in till we're done, which is 7, 8, sometimes 9, depending on what happens. And then we're having to take everything down and pack it away. So as you can imagine, we're quite tired. So now when we have the rigging crew, and also as well, we're bringing in colleagues that don't work in events. You know, they work in other areas, and it takes them out of their day job to come and help us set up a competition. So we're trying to stop that now so we can keep the business running still.
Yep. Absolutely.
And obviously for us, it's like, I've still got 10,000 things going on, but, you know, we're here setting up because that's our job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you say, you know, you're already planning for the British and other competitions coming up sort of early next year as well. So
yeah, we've got the regionals up next, so there's all that going on as well. So
yeah, and so the regionals, is that just for the masters, or is that regionals in general?
So we have the regionals for the seniors and age groups, which hopefully we'll get some more information out on. But we've got the first one at Central Staffs, and obviously, like I say, by the time this has gone out,
you've got one at North Tyneside as well. Is that
yeah,
right?
so we've got 2 this year. Again, it's just. We've taken the British Open and just split it so we can have it in more places to reach more lifters.
Yep.
It's just, you know, that extra experience.
Yeah,
but the class is tier 3 because we wanted to bring it somewhere in between a tier 2 and a tier 3, but that doesn't exist. So they're called a tier 3. But yeah, so that is the start of May. But obviously, by the time this goes out, it will have happened. But we have got 1 year later in the year as well. So hopefully we'll get more information about that out to lifters soon. Yep. Because again, we've just, poor Lila, we've bombarded her with all this stuff, all the social media, and that's something as well. We have all the social media. We have to we give her a long list of things we need to get out.
Yeah.
And,
well, this is hopefully where you're going to start seeing our ugly mugs a little bit more. So we're going to try and help you a little bit with that. So we can appreciate it. I think the more we get involved, the more we can see actually how much there is for you to do and how few people there are for you to get through it all. So.
And that's why the riggers have been a massive help. And actually England age groups that we just had earlier in the year was probably one of the smoothest setups we've had, because they just came in and just did a lot of it. But even for me, and it's something we're still working on, they can't, or you know, the software is a different kettle of fish for them to try and lay out. It's a bit easier to tell them to go move a platform, move some weights. So Ed does a great job at organising them and getting them to do that, but the tech still takes me a good 5 hours to lay everything.
Well, especially when you've got three platforms and they're all running on the same system.
That was even 2 and it still took me about 5 hours. So it takes me a long time. But today, tomorrow even, we'll have 2 platforms again here. So it shouldn't take me as long. I've sent Maggie a little pack that I built as well, so hopefully she'll be on it and helping me out. Awesome. But it is, we all chip in. It's, you know, the 3 of us are here at every competition. Laying everything down, and then Ed has his weightlifting on wheels, and he'll do various tier 3s as well.
Weightlifting on wheels.
He's referred to everyone as weightlifting on wheels.
I've got my little. In fact, it's over there. Look, my little weight.
The stickers that Maggie
made.
But so BUCS, and it's always nice coming back to a venue we used previously, because we know exactly what we're getting in for as well, which we know about bringing the wagon down. We know after we lay the boards, and conveniently here there are already warm-up platforms for us to use as well, so that makes life a little bit easier for us as well.
I was going to say, because there's 6 warm-up platforms, or 6
5.
platforms where there are 5 that they train on, and then so because you've got the 2 platforms, obviously you need more space, so to the left of that you put down boards and then platforms.
So we'll have the extra 2. So it's always now where we can is 7 per platform, because we'll always go to the biggest group of 14 lifters, so you've got 2 per warm-up platform. But it's a lot of university students coming through.
And they can just come from any uni really that's got a registered weightlifting club, right? Or that
doesn't even have to be. It's to do with BUCS, and this is where we're not quite sure.
So they don't have to be BWL registered,
No. So for example, as I coach at Leeds Uni in the Barbell Society there, we're not a club, and again that's something I've spoken to Hannah about, because it's difficult for a university to become a club. There are some, but a small number, just because, and you know, from my experience, it's the way they run. They're not there all year and things like that. So, I think as long as they've got that connection somehow with BUCS, and I don't know, anyone can enter. But
universities are a whole different thing, aren't they? When they have societies and all that, so long as they figure it out.
And but it's great to see. Like when I was at uni, these things didn't exist, and then knowing the guys that I have met through Leeds, it's there's some good athletes, and we'll see that on Thursday and Friday. there's so much more opportunity now for younger lifters, and we see that in weightlifting as well, because we're seeing, Amelie Pelter, SEs and people like that are coming through from a younger age. Yes, they're younger than uni students, I believe, but it's like, you see it coming through the ranks.
Yeah, we keep talking about this change. I say change, that we're in this transition period, and you are seeing people like Funmi, people like Aziz, people like, Emily, and you see, and Amelie, and you see all of these younger lifters, and the potential is amazing. So it's exciting. BUCS is exciting because you get variety. I think my experience of BUCS has been, sometimes you're like, where does that person come from? And then other times you're a bit like, okay, you're on a platform. But it is what it
First
is.
Comp sort of
thing.
Bless them for going
both
out
of my lifters, well, there's 3 I know lifting this week, but 2 of them, it's their first British weightlifting comp. They've done the tier 3 to get here, but
but that's
what an
fascinating.
event to come out to, really. It's pretty jumping out into the fire.
It's fascinating as a TO to sit in front of that, because in the same group you can have somebody that's never done a competition before, who is quite obviously a brand new lifter and quite obviously never done a competition before, and maybe not great, but a beginner, and somebody who is a beginner and comes out and you could well believe they had competed a million times before, because you already see the potential and you think, I'm going to see that person again relatively soon somewhere else. So it's a really interesting one for me, considering it's not a British weightlifting competition, because I have seen talent in there before and thought I'll see you again, and have done later down the line.
I know you guys have got a list of lifters, like you say, you're helping us out with social media, and there's a good few people. I mean, Sarah's here again because
Sarah's
of her scholarship, so we've got people, like you say, from the first time. Certainly, my lifters, it's their first time coming here, and then you've got people like Sarah
Davies,
but it's an inspiration for them as well.
Which is, this is the thing, isn't it? It's one of the things I said the first time you guys put the English together, and it was the warm-up area had the masters, the seniors, everybody in. The idea that you're warming up next to Chris Murray, because your group would have been warming up next to Chris Murray warming up. I mean, that's amazing. That to me is that inclusion. The fact that a first-time lifter can be on the same platform as Sarah Davies is inspirational.
I'd be disappointed if they didn't turn up.
Yeah.
To miss that opportunity to train next to them, to warm
even
up
if I
next to
turned
them.
up and pressed every single left out, I wouldn't care, because I've done it on a platform with an Olympian. It's the same thing as if Emily Campbell's going to be somewhere, anyone that you know that is somebody in our sport, that has gone somewhere, Europeans, Worlds, Commonwealths. It's a privilege to lift with them or around them, and to learn from them and their experiences. So BUCS is a special one, because you get such a variety. It's, like I say, so it's weird in the sense that it's not yours, but it's special as a TO to see that breadth of talent, from brand new, first time touching a barbell, maybe coming out and doing 35 kilos, to somebody coming out and doing like Sarah Davies, and impressive, much more than that, in the same group. So
you said that you're, so not only you setting up and sort of helping to running it, but coaching as well. You've got 3 lifters, you said?
Chloe, she has her own coach, because she's been weightlifting for a long time, but I've been at the society kind of 18 months. The former coach very kindly recommended me. It was at this time last year that I saw 2 of the other lifters when I'd just taken over come here. But so actually this time I'm coaching.
Nice.
So
Nice.
Luckily, they're in the different groups. I was like, because they were both the same weight class, and I was like, please don't be in the same group, because that side of things is still very much new to me. I've been a weightlifting coach for probably about 4 years, but to be at a competition, because obviously I'm running them, and I've never had competitive lifters, so
I hope I'm on your Marshall's table. That's what I'm gonna say. I hope.
You're going to be
I know Erin, you are for one of them.
That's right.
Yeah, because I looked and I was like, because don't be judgmental of me.
No.
But no, it's exciting, and it's been such a privilege to see so many lifters come into the sport, and I've kind of met them through various. Some people have been in it for a while, some people are brand new, and it's always one of my highlights of my week is to go to Leeds Uni and just to coach. We only have a small group, but it's just to see them all enjoy it. With the sunny weather,
people improve. It's the small improvements that make you, like as a coach, that really make the difference, isn't it? And when you see someone change even just something really small, but you see it consistently, that's they're the big wins.
Because we had to go through, because obviously we have the virtuals as well, which is something else we look after and do. So they came through the virtuals, 2 of my lifters, to get more, increase their qualification total, and I wasn't allowed to judge it for obvious reasons. But it was just like I was messaging Maggie going, how did they do? What did they get? So it's just I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be very nervous. They'll be nervous, but we'll be nervous together.
Yeah, exactly. It's gonna smash it.
It's nothing wrong coaching in front of all your colleagues. We're all like weightlifting coaches as well.
You'll smash it. You'll smash it.
Well, I'll see is Maggie going. She'll be watching me from the other side of the room, but no, it's gonna be it's gonna be really good.
Well, we're looking forward to it. So we'll see you. We're gonna have tomorrow, I say off, back at our day jobs, and we'll leave you to your day job of setting it all up. So by the time we come back, it'll look ever so different.
Yeah, it will.
Yeah. Awesome. But thank you for going through all of that.
Yeah, thanks.
And we threw quite a lot of topics at you, but it's nice to have somebody from BWL on and actually get a bit of insight in terms of what happens on the other side.
And it's obviously I'm one department, everything else and all the other areas that our colleagues.
Warn the rest of your colleagues, because we're coming for them all. I've
for you all.
I've been coming for Maggie. I've been coming for Maggie and Ed for forever.
I know, that's the thing, you went to Maggie and then you ended up with me.
Oh no, we went to you and Maggie, and Maggie just said, absolutely, Maggie, I've been to Maggie a million times just for Maggie, not for the British weightlifting thing, but she just won't talk to me. But and Ed's another one, but I've got a feeling I'd probably need a bleep button. Yeah. So and
translator. We always, as much as I live in Leeds, but Ed is a northerner through and through. But
I'll translate. It's all good.
Pint of beer and just let him slip into.
We wouldn't even need the question. Just shove a microphone in front of him. And
just ask that. Or no questions, just stories about his time in weightlifting.
I love it. I love it. When
him and Dave together.
When he shows me his pictures, he showed me a picture once when I was TOing and you weren't there, of him lifting, and I had to take a picture of the picture on Ed's phone because Ed wasn't sure how to send it to me, so that I could send it to Aaron, because the story that went with it.
He said he used to record it on
VCR,
like a VCR,
VCR
and then go back. He said in those days, if you wanted to watch it back, you'd have to rewind it on the actual video to watch it back on the little screen. He was telling me how he had all of these VCR videos still, and he's now currently trying to figure out how to get them onto DVD.
Like, really?
This is just
DVD, not
that
MP3.
will be when I get a phone call.
You're gonna,
Claire, how'd you do this?
And in another 5 years, he'll figure out that it will go from DVD and it's going to go on the computer. But I'd love to have Ed on. But yes, tell your colleagues we're coming for them eventually too.
I will do.
But thank you for your time and travelling all this way from Leeds to Brunel a day before you needed to be here. So really appreciate it. Yeah.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers for coming to the bar. Thank you.
Thanks.
Done.
You've been listening to the Bar, strength in every story. Thanks so much for listening. We're so happy to have you as a member of our community. We have a passion for weightlifting, but we also have an insatiable curiosity about everyone's story. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on Instagram at _2_thebar. And be sure to hit the website at 2-thebar.com. See you next time on To The Bar. And remember, there's strength in every story.